There are some very, very, very interesting things going on, and she believes that they will issue gold-backed treasuries on July. It is to a degree, but not anywhere near where it should be based upon what's happening all around us.
Why is this being ignored? And more importantly, what does it mean for the future of gold and silver? Gold is shattering records, yet the media is dead silent. While the world chases distractions, the biggest gold transfer in history is unfolding right under our noses. The system is being drained. Demand is exploding. So why is no one talking about it? Is this a setup for something massive? Andy Schectman reveals the truth they don't want you to know. Stay tuned.
I think that they should revalue the price of gold. It's interesting that Bassett is backtracking from his comments. He's gotten a lot of questions on it. No, we're not going to revalue gold is basically what he's saying. But it would certainly make sense, and marking it to market at 3,000 would give the Treasury about 800 billion free and clear. And Senator Loomis is somewhat annoying to me. She started in Tennessee, the meeting in Tennessee, talking about revaluing gold. Now I think she got a lot of crap about publicly saying some of these things. I'm not sure. Now she's even talking about selling the gold to fund a strategic Bitcoin account. But you wouldn't need to sell the gold, because when the Treasury, who owns the gold, gives gold certificates to the Fed, and the Fed gives money to the Treasury General account, those certificates have no claim on the physical gold. It's a stupid accounting gimmick, is what it is. They have a claim on fiat currency in that amount, but people think, well, if the Treasury gives the certificate or gives the gold to the Fed, who gives them certificates which are claim on the gold, and then pays them money for it, that goes right into the Treasury General account. Well, does that mean the Fed owns the gold? No, it doesn't. And it doesn't mean they own a claim on it either. So in essence, they could market to market and then go beyond that. If you take the money supply and you take a 40% gold backing, or a 40% of the largest, broadest measure of the U.S. money supply, and divide it into the ounces of gold we supposedly hold on behalf of the American people, which again hasn't fully been audited since '53, you come up with just over $12,000 an ounce. As crazy as that sounds, every $4,000 increase would give the Treasury General account from the Fed $1 trillion free and clear. So that would add $3 trillion to the Treasury General account, which they could go do whatever the hell they want with at that point, whether it be buying Bitcoin to pay down the debt or whatever it may be. So they don't even need to sell the gold. And in terms of revaluing it, and by the way, that whole act would take virtually no congressional support at all, or approval. You would just have to have the Treasury Secretary tell the head of the Federal Reserve to revalue the price of gold, and it's done. So should they do it? Yeah. I mean, why else are they bringing back all this gold? It's very difficult to surmise. When you talk to Judy Shelton, as I have, and she said she was told by Trump, she believes that they will issue gold-backed treasuries on July 4th, 2026, the 250th year anniversary. Well, that gives us just over a year to do that. Maybe you have to have gold at a much higher price, but the first thing to do is to onshore it. I don't know. I think that there would be ramifications. We'll probably see much higher inflation as that money is just created out of thin air and then used to do something with into the economy. But maybe a lesser of all evils, a way to inspire confidence in the balance sheet or a country that's working on it. It would benefit all of the central banks. I don't know. It just seems ironic that it's held in an account called the gold revaluation account. You have members of the Bundesbank asking for it, the head of the Dutch National Bank asking for it. When you're as far down the rabbit hole as we are with indebtedness, I think, nothing is off the table. And what I can tell you is I do not believe it has anything to do with Trump tariffs. What I can tell you is it might have maybe a little bit, maybe has a little bit to do with the Basel III reclassification, the Tier 1 status that goes into effect July 1st. Maybe it has a little to do with the arbitrage, all of that stuff a little bit, but I just have a feeling it is much deeper. And maybe they will revalue gold. We saw, I know that by the end of February, We saw roughly 128.5 million ounces of silver withdrawal out of the LBMA in the 3 months preceding. And that's roughly 42% of the entire float that they had at the LBMA. And when you're trading, according to David Jensen, who you've had on your show a few times, as much as 2.9 billion ounces of silver per day, 3.5 times annual global mine supply, against a total float of 270 million ounces or so. This is a large problem. When you see the amount of silver that's coming into the COMEX, largely leaving the LBMA, it makes someone wonder what the hell's going on. There's been little or no clarity on why all this metal is coming into the COMEX. I did run across something yesterday, and it's interesting. It was a tweet from Trump on January 7th, 2017. He said, silver is the most undervalued asset on the planet. It's been money for all human history, and yet here it sits at $16.50 an ounce. Sad! Exclamation, exclamation. So President Trump understands it, as he does gold, perhaps being the only other tier one asset in the world. And it's very interesting watching the LBMA being bled dry in real time, switching their delivery from T+1 to T+8 weeks, which all but appears to be a default. Seeing massive short positions on PSLV that I guess many people are surmising, and I agree, it does make sense, that the banks are shorting the price, or the share price, are shorting PSLV, because if the public goes long on PSLV and tries to accumulate it, well, then they're forced to buy the corresponding amount of silver to put into the trust. So by shorting it, it kind of forestalls all of this rapid accumulation by the public and keeps them from having to go into the market and purchase more silver. If that's true, I mean, by all accounts, it seems to be true. It just goes to show the level of desperation that has been reached by the bullion banks. And I don't know. It's an interesting time. At the same point, maybe if we look at it from another angle, maybe they are doing that so they can continue to accumulate cheap physical silver and send it back westward. I don't know. But it's as interesting of a time as I've ever seen in 35 years at the highest level, and virtually no media attention. Now, I did see an article actually by MSN News saying if you missed the rally in gold, well, check out silver. I agree with what Donald Trump said in 2017. It's the most undervalued asset on the planet. And by the movements of the massive players, whether it be going to desperate tactics like suppressing PSLV so that the trust doesn't have to go and accumulate more silver, large amounts, or the inflows into COMEX, or the outflows out of the LBMA. There are some very, very, very interesting things going on, and I guess we'll see what ultimately happens. But it's far beyond what we are being told. Just Trump tariffs. What do you think? It is to a degree, but not anywhere near where it should be based upon what's happening all around us. This is part and parcel for the reason why so few people are ever truly successful in investing, because they follow the herd. And when you look at the media attention that we've seen on gold and silver, I'll give you an analogy why this is the way that it is. So I was working out the other day in the health club, and at the end of my workout, I get on the elliptical machine for about a half hour, and I never watch CNBC ever, but it's right here in front of me. And this was last week, a few days ago, maybe Wednesday or so, and gold's at all-time highs at this point. $3,050 an ounce or whatnot, and should be all over the place in terms of media coverage. And there's a stream that goes at the bottom of this of the page like this, and that shows individual stocks. And then underneath that are three boxes, and they flip like this every 5 or 6 seconds. And we'll say the indices like the Dow, the Nasdaq, the Nikkei, the S&P, gold, Bitcoin. So I'm watching it for a while. I'm like, this something doesn't seem right here. And I watch gold come up. Now, again, if you would have told me, Mario, at any point in my career that gold would be $3,050 an ounce, and most people will have no idea, zero, because there's no media attention, I'd say there's no way. There's just absolutely no way. I mean, I remember when gold finally broke through 400, it was all over the place, let alone 1,000. But here we are at 3,050 and virtually no attention, and it comes through gold. And I count, 1, 2, 3, and this took, 4 or 5 minutes, 44 turns of the boxes before gold came up again. During that time, I also counted how many times Bitcoin or Bitcoin futures were in the same boxes. 1 out of 44 for gold, 9 out of 44 for Bitcoin. Now, do you think that there is a message in that? I do. I'm thinking to myself, gold's at all-time highs. The LBMA is being drained. The United States has become a net importer of gold. Massive, largest deliveries in the history of the COMEX ever. And yet 1 out of 44, 9 out of 44 for Bitcoin. And I think this is the problem, is that there are a lot of well-read people just reading the wrong stuff, being followed by or being following the wrong source of information. And so, to your point, no. I mean, yes, there's greater demand, but nowhere near what it should be. And it's largely in part to the fact that the media, again, and if you think that there's enough power to go in and actually suppress PSLV by the banks, there's probably enough power up at that level to suppress the information from the media, or to use the media as a tool of propaganda, not only to keep people from, realizing what gold and silver have been doing and the potential that they offer, but an agenda to push people in a certain direction. At least that's the way I took it. Yeah, it's funny. I miss the newspaper. I used to love reading it every morning and with a cup of coffee. It's funny how things progress and change. Now everything is done on our phones, and information is so immediate. You would think there'd be more journalistic integrity across mainstream media, but there's not.
No.
And that's why I think there are people who have been misdirected. You have massive, I think the largest percentage of the retail public invested in equities, like ever. It's over 50% right now. I mean, it's like the largest ever. And at the same time, you have the Mag 7, the hedge funds, having their lowest allocation to the Mag 7 in 2 years, just as the public is jumping in with both feet. The whole thing is upside down to me, and I would just simply tell you, Mario, that I look at what's happening at the highest levels as an indicator of where things are ultimately going, less the public, because the public is always late to catch on, always. And this time will be no different.
The signs are clear. Gold is making moves the world isn't ready for. If you found this insight valuable, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss an update. The truth waits for no one. Stay ahead of the game.